Hello all, welcome to my video. In this particular video, I am actually going to talk about an important concept in actually terms of the differences between your certification learnings versus actually practicing it in the IT engagements. Okay, so in this particular video, I'm actually going to share some of my experiences, some of my views and no, some of my views and perspectives, fundamentally trying to distinguish between a certification training knowledge versus an agile practitioner kind of a knowledge or a capability. Okay, now let us actually get into the crux of this particular video. Now, most of you, right, from the agile world would have actually begin your journey by actually doing some kind of a certifications like a CSM, PSM, CSPO, PSPO. Some of you would have done some kind of a safe agilist certification, ICP, ACC. Someone would have done a PMP certification and then recently did some kind of a PMI, ACP certification, because these are the typical certifications which the candidates also tend to do. And me as an interview panel member for many years in the agile job, whenever I formulate a JD for my client and then send it to the talent acquisition team, I also primarily look for certain kind of a certifications to shortlist the resume, not to shortlist the candidate. Okay, candidate will be shortlisted based on the expertise and experience he or she is showing in the interview, but then to shortlist the resumes quickly and then to take the call forward, we actually look for some kind of a preliminary certifications to actually begin the journey. Okay, now let us go one by one, right? So what happens in a certification program versus a real-time IT industry, right? So typically when you are trying to do a certification trainer is trying to impart you some kind of a knowledge, some kind of a conceptual clarity to the target audience. Okay, now when it comes to a agile practitioner, um, typically an agile practitioner tries to give you a applied knowledge, or in terms of your skills or competencies or capabilities, in fundamentally in terms of the uh, implementation aspects of those particular concepts, right? That is the fundamental difference to actually begin the journey when it comes to certification versus a real-time agile practitioner kind of a capability. Now, let us do one by one. Now, many of the people whom I know, right, they actually have a wrong expectation in terms of expecting too much from a certification, right? See, if you're trying to do a safe agilist, at that time only you are trying to get into the concepts of safe agilist, like in terms of the uh, safe implementation itself. But then people have too much of an expectation from a certification program, saying that I need to get real time knowledge, I need to get practical knowledge, I need to get hands on knowledge just by doing a safe agilist over a weekend. Do you think that you can get a hands on knowledge without doing hands on? As the name indicates, if you want to get a hands-on knowledge, you should have done it hands-on, right? Without doing something hands-on, at least in one or two projects, how will you get a hands-on knowledge by attending only the certification program, right? Okay, by the by, I'm not saying candidates should not do certification programs. Certifications are inevitably needed in this highly competitive world. Okay, if you are not having the basic certifications, your resumes itself will not get shortlisted. 10 years back, 14 years back, if you have some certifications, people will say wow. But now if you don't have certifications, so then your profile itself will not be shortlisted to get a call letter from the interview, means for the interview, right? Now let us try to understand one more aspect or a dimension when it comes to a certification trainer versus an agile practitioner. Okay. By the by, let me also put a point very clear in this particular video. Whatever I am trying to say, I actually try to say with no offense and with all due respects to all the certification trainers who had helped me during my beginning days of a agile journey, maybe somewhere around 12 years back or 13 years back. When I started my journey in agile, the concepts itself was very new to me, and it is my certification trainers had actually helped me to get the basic knowledge about the subject. So with the due respects and with pranams to all my certification trainers, I actually touched their feet through this particular video. But then the point is, all that I was trying to say in this video is, let us try to little bit deep dive between a certification trainer versus an agile practitioner. Or if you want to slightly change the topic, let us try to understand what could be the difference between your certification knowledge versus a real-time agile practitioner kind of a capability. Now, let us actually go one by one. In a certification program, what is that which has been done? You are assuming as if all the prerequisites, as if all the precursor activities are already taken care. Whereas in a real-time IT engagements, that is not the reality, right? Because your team need to work together even to take care of the fulfillment of the prerequisites, right? That is what happens. See, the people in the industry knows all this particular reality. There are many agile teams who are not having product owner, and they say that we are actually doing a we are actually doing an agile implementation. If you go by the framework like a Scrum, which is a basic framework, you have roles called product owner, Scrum master, and the team. And how are you running the show without a product owner? And some people say that we have a proxy product owner, and there is no role called proxy product owner going by the purist approach, right? Of course, in the industry, you may still need to take a pragmatic approach, which I never deny, but at least the fundamentals of the framework need to be followed. The principles need to be practiced to some extent, right? Now, what happens in the industry is typically in a service-based IT industry, your team will be formed because as part of the onboarding journey, onboarding would not have been completed. But then your client will say that your sprint one need to be begin the journey, right? So sometimes in my past, when I was working as a Scrum Master many years ago, I have worked as a Scrum Master in some teams where there is no product owner in the first place. My product owner came inside the picture after the 7th sprint, after the 7th iteration. Okay, till then I was managing the show by getting the help of the functional SMEs. So one of the difference between a certification knowledge versus an agile practitioner kind of a capability is, in your certification, what really happens is all your prerequisites or precursor activities are assumed as if they are already taken care. Whereas in a real-time project, that is not the reality. Okay, now let us go to the next point. Your agile certification materials always say cross-functional team, self-organized team. But do you really have a cross-functional team? Do you really have a self-organized team at the beginning of the journey itself? Most likely, no. You need to make your existing team to become cross-functional over a period of time. That's where the role of a Scrum Master and an Agile coach comes as a of a paramount importance, right? You will not get a cross-functional team at the beginning of the game itself. However, over a period of time, you need to make the existing team to become cross-functional in terms of your skill capability building, in terms of actually doing an agile maturity assessment, and then trying to find some kind of a gap analysis, all those things, and then trying to co-create a coaching plan of 30, 60, 90 days, right? So just to cut a long story short, your certification materials assume the happy path scenario, but life is not that easy, right? Your life is not always a happy path scenario. If life is a happy path scenario, then why does so many projects fail? Then why does so many projects and programs are in red status, right? That shows our actual situation is not a happy path scenario like what you've been taught in the certification. Of course, in the certification, for you to get a knowledge on the concept, they will take a happy path to explain the concept. That actually doesn't mean that your learning should stop there. Your learning begins from there, right? That is what I was actually trying to tell using this particular video. Okay, now one more important point is, in a certification program, you are not having anything to, you are not having boundaries to the context, right? See, for example, right, if you are trying to learn something on the architecture runway, something on the portfolio backlog, something on the program backlog, something on the team backlog, whenever it comes to safe implementation, typically in a certification program, you are not being constrained by the context, right? Whereas in a real-time IT engagement, what happens? You are still driven by the clauses of the RFP, the clauses of the request for proposal, the clauses of the SOW, the statement of work. So if you go to my own video, right? If you go to my own video, I have made no some amount, some videos on the RFP. I have made some videos on this statement of work, SOW. Go through all these things, because in a real-time complex IT engagement, be it a product company or be it a captive unit or be it a service company, you still need to operate within the constraints of the clauses. Of course, in a product company and a captive unit, the business operating model is something different. There, you are not having something like a SOW between the client and the no, no, by and large, you are not having a stringent SOW between the client and the company, but still you have something like a agreement, some kind of a contractual obligation. So, in a real time in your real-time project or a engagement, you still need to operate within the constraints, within the clauses of the SOW or your legal obligations, applying the theory of constraints, right? From a system thinking point of view. Okay, I actually like to speak. Speak the language of the audience, right? Whatever you have learned, your system thinking, your design thinking, your theory of constraints, everything is applicable even in your own case, right? That is one of the difference between a certification learning versus a real-time capability building. Okay, now let me do one more thing. One more difference what I see between a certification program and a real-time capability building is, in a certification program, concepts are concepts are taught to you as per the rule book. Okay, what I meant by rule book, I am referring to the Scrum guide, right? Okay, for example, if you have a guide, you cannot, but in a real-time project, you cannot open the guide, keep it in front of you and then execute your project. Why? Because in a real-time project, what typically happens is, the impact of the concept on the triple constraints of the program, like scope, cost, and time, needs to be factored. Whereas in a certification, you still go by the rule book. Okay, so if I want to give some kind of a closest analogy, right, some kind of a example or some kind of a closest analogy for me to distinguish between these things, like in some of the videos, it was actually mentioned, there is a difference between Rama versus Krishna, right? Rama typically try to operate as per the rule book, as per the rules of the dharma, whereas Krishna try is a like basically try to maneuver the situation in a smart and a diplomatic manner. Krishna never goes by the rule book. That actually doesn't mean that I always create an anti-pattern to the rule, but all it means that when there is a theory of constraints of scope, cost, time, quality, and all other PMI process areas, you cannot open a guidebook, keep it by your side, and then execute the project. That's not the way the real-time industry operates. Okay, people in the industry knows this by and large. Here in this video, I'm trying to paraphrase it, so that I can actually package it and then give it to you people. Okay, now one more important point is, don't do a certification just because your colleague did it. Don't do a certification because your cousin brother completed it. Don't do a certification without having a convincing reason that why do you need to do it in the first place, right? Because when I was very new to Agile, I used I was actually wow, one of the crazy guy, whichever certification comes in the market, of course I spend my own money for it. My companies have never sponsored any of my certifications in the past, so I used to keep on doing certifications, and I have somewhere close to 15 certifications only in the Agile world. But then what I thought, after beyond a certain point in time, yes, certifications are inevitably needed, but to what extent is the question. Just because your cousin brother, your neighbor, or your colleague, or your peer has done some certification, doesn't mean that we need to exhibit that deep triangle of urgency to do the same certification. You look into the fit for purpose. You actually define a career trajectory for you, and based on your career trajectory, go through the course content or the curriculum of that certification, and then take a call. Okay, see, practically, let me tell you what happens in the industry. Because you have done a scaled program consultant as certification, no one is going to give you an enterprise agile coach role. Because if that's the reality, by now all the people who had completed scaled program consultant certifications should have automatically become enterprise agile coaches, right? That's not the way the world operates. Of course, scaled program consultant gives you the capabilities, gives you the competency, gives you scaled program consultant certification expands your horizons of thinking in terms of implementing safe. Okay, I don't have any second thought to it, but what you do with safe basically depends upon your own individual capability. Okay, not only for that matter with safe, right? Any certification for that matter, your Scrum, your Kanban, less dad, you have so many certifications in the market is flooded with A to Z. And whatever I'm trying to say, it need not be confined only to certification. Let's say you are trying to do an executive program. Okay, let's say you are actually trying to do some kind of advanced strategic management program, because these are all the programs which I have done in the past. Okay, like I have completed my executive MBA in the Great Lakes Institute of Management at Chennai, and then I completed my advanced strategic management program with IIM Kozhikode, okay, Indian Institute of Management. But then what I felt is, yes, these certifications, these knowledge gave me a network connect at that level. Like these things have definitely expanded my social circle. But then the point is, everything in life, what we do, what we do with what we have, fundamentally depends upon our individual capability, right? Knowing something is one thing. What we do with what we know is something else, right? So I was actually making this video with a good intent to help you people, to share my own views and perspectives, because I have been in this industry for somewhere close to 22 years and somewhere close to 14 years in the agile world, and for the past 7 or 8 years I had also been part of the interview panel for multiple agile jobs, like Scrum Master, Senior Scrum Master, RTE, Project Manager, Program Manager, and then Product Owner, Product Manager. So across the industry, I have worked in multiple companies also. So what I thought is that everything boils down at the end of the balance sheet. Everything boils down to your own individual capability. Okay, same certification, one guy is able to come up in the career at a very fast rate, whereas one guy, even after completing 10 certification, is not able to crack the interview. So of course, do some relevant certification, look into the context of the certification, look into the market demand of the certification, and fundamentally look into your own passion also. You define your career trajectory, factoring everything, then take a call of not only doing certification, any other degree, any other learning for that matter. And of course, if you wanted to know any kind of a real-time capabilities in Agile, if you wanted to build your real-time capabilities in Agile, more from a pragmatic approach, not from a purist approach, more from a pragmatic approach, like you can contact me and you and me can get into something. We actually call it as a career strategy call. I actually do a career strategy call, and based on the outcome of the career strategy call, probably like I can help you with some of the lesson plans and courses and curriculum as part of my own Agile Mentorship program. We have somewhere close to 135 people already completed AMP in a successful manner. We actually shortly call it as a AMP, Agile Mentorship Program. So depending upon the target audience or depending upon the user persona, I have created different lesson plans right from the Scrum Master all the way to the CXO level of a organization. Probably you can contact with me and then we can take it forward. All that I am trying to say is look into the fit for purpose, like in terms of any learning that you want to do in the future, and then try to see where you can apply a purist approach, where you can take a pragmatic approach, and to what extent you can balance it, right? Okay, now one more important point is, like I was actually talking to one of the Agile conference and I was actually having a network peer circle. One of the important one of the important topic which actually popped up on the discussion is, okay, this particular project or this particular program can we do it in a waterfall model or can we do it in a agile manner? See, now the question is, okay, now if I want to quickly answer to this question, if you refer to the Agile practice guide, right, there is a concept called Agile suitability filters. Agile suitability filters. If you just to go through it, PMI gives a clear indication based on what parameters we can take a call whether this project can be like whether this project can be executed in a waterfall model versus a agile model. But then the point is, in a real time implementation, umpteen projects are executed in a hybrid model. The reason being, it is not a question of waterfall or it's not a question of agile. It is a question of to what extent you need predictability and to what extent you need adaptability in your own context, because business demands predictability. Why? Business sponsors are pumping money inside the particular engagement, right? Because they have funded that particular engagement only, that particular project kick-started. So business sponsors always demand predictability. But your Agile manifesto says responding to change over following a plan, right? While there is a value on the right, the value on the left is more than the value on the right. Means what? Value of responding to change is more than the value of following a plan, because Agile is fundamentally an adaptive approach. It's not a plan driven approach. So the better way of approaching the situation is to what extent I may need to use plan driven approaches, probably at an engagement level or at a program level. However, when it comes to my day-to-day activities in terms of the Scrum, Kanban, DevOps implementation, I can go for an adaptive approach. So the question itself is to what extent I can plug and play. Okay, that is the question. It is no more a question of whether this project needs to be executed in a plan driven or a agile manner. Because if, okay, let's say if scope, cost, time, everything is fixed, then that project is an excellent example for a waterfall model. Why are you bringing it to agile? Agile may not be suitable in all the cases, right? So look into the fit for purpose and then try to take a call. Okay, all right. Hope this video was some extent helpful to you in terms of expanding your horizons of thinking, and hope to see you in some other video soon. And if you want to become part of my own Agile Mentorship Program, probably you can drop me a ping message on my WhatsApp number. Like I will be dropping my WhatsApp number in the description of this particular video. Let us actually get into a career strategy call to understand where are you currently, what are all your pain points, where do you need to improve, where does the industry is going, and where do you really need my help as a mentor or a coach. Based on that, we can actually take it forward. Okay, hope to see you soon in some other video. Okay, cheers, bye.